I'm Susan, and I was born in 1951, so that makes me 67 years old. I was born in Maitland in a little house. My mother was, she worked the phones when they were old and had to be wires and everything. And I had a brother, Tommy, a sister, Claire, a sister, Sandy, a sister, Linda, which passed away with brain cancer. And then I have a younger brother, George. And after my mother finished working in the telephone office, we moved to a shack in Selma. And it was a small house, no running water, no bathroom, a wood stove that went out at night. And in the morning, you were literally freezing, see your breath. And we had an old wringer washer that we had to haul the water from the well, and we had an electric object that fed into the water to heat it. And then we had to hang out the clothes, and they were always frozen stiff when we brought them in. My father was an alcoholic, and he was an abusive alcoholic, mentally and physically. And so a lot of weekends we would leave the house and stay at my sister and her husband's house so we wouldn't be beat up. And as far as the outhouse, my sister started trying smoking at 14 and burned it down. And that was kind of funny, but we had no outhouse for a while. And my brother Tommy, he joined the forces when he was 16 years old, and he stayed in there for 20 years, and then he became an OPP, Ontario Police Department, and now he's retired. And my sister Claire, she raised her family, and she worked in an old store, Fries and Royce, which has been in Maitland for centuries. It's still running. And my sister Linda was married when she was 15, had a baby born in our house. And my sister Sandy got married at 17. Her and her husband worked on farms. And I was married at 17. Had two babies when I was 18, twins. I only worked in the household for up until my children were a little bit older, and then I babysat for a teacher, made her bread and her meals, and looked after her three kids. And my kids would get off the school bus there. In 1986, I got a real job. I went to the airport, and I became just a normal worker. That I worked in various jobs, cooking, a dishwashing place, belt line where we ran food down and put in carriers, numerous jobs. I worked there for 30 years, and now there's 18 people working there, which there were about 156 when I started. It was 24/7. Now it just runs from 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning until around 6 at night. It's totally different. As I said, my father was abusive. I can remember being grabbed by the throat, thrown across the kitchen. One morning I was standing beside the stove trying to get warm to get dressed for school, and my father just pushed me out of the way so he could get warm. I call him father, but he didn't act like a father. And after we moved out of the shack, we moved into another house, which was a huge house. It had 14 rooms in it. It cost $3,000. And my father continued drinking there. And after a few years, he quit, which was God's blessing. The abuse stopped. I lived there until I got married. Married into an emotionally bad marriage. Didn't seem to know any better. And I raised 3 children until one was turned 5, and he had heart problems and he had to be operated on at Rochester, Minnesota at the Mayo Clinic. So we took him there, and unfortunately the surgery did not work. And on the 24th hour, he passed away. I was the last one in to see him. When I went into the room, he sat up straight in bed, which there was no way possibly he could have, because he was wired and cut. And he raised his arms up, and he had the most angelic look on his face that I knew he was in a better place. So I left the hospital room, and we were in an apartment across the street. I went in the apartment, sat down on the bed, the phone rang, and I said, "Sheldon's dead." I knew. But I also knew he was in a better place. And that has kept me going for all these years. So then I continued to raise my other 2 children, Eldon and Serena, and did the best I could under the conditions we were living. Then my husband took sick, had cancer all through him. I looked after him well until the day he died, and he apologized for his actions, and I forgave him. I don't forget, but I did give him forgiveness. I think he deserved that because of the way he was raised. That's how he knew how to act. Plus, he was an alcoholic. I raised my 2 children, as I said, and I'm so proud of them. They are the joy of my life, and I think I did a wonderful job with them. Both have great jobs. Eldon has no children, but Serena has 2 granddaughters, or excuse me, my granddaughters, Brittany and Ashley. And I love them to the moon and back, as I always tell them. I have never been so happy in my life since those 2 children were born. They just mean the world to me. From the day they were born, they were so different. Brittany, when she was born, her mother, when she changed her diaper, her bathed her, or whatever, she had a little heater she turned on, thinking that the baby was going to be cold. And we all always teased her about that. The funniest thing that I can remember about Brittany is how she always acted like an animal, a dog, a cat, a pig. She was always on her hands and knees, making the sounds, barking, snorting like a pig, mooing like a cow. And her father always said, "She shouldn't be doing that." And I said, "Leave her alone. She's normal. She's cute. She's sweet." Then along came Ashley. Her mother didn't lay her by the heater. She knew better by then. She laid her down when she went to bed. She didn't hold her 24/7. And she was a very charming, happy baby, chubby. She always clung to me. Whenever she came, she was always on my knee. We bathed together. We slept together. I was known as the play nanny, and the other nanny was known as the cook lady. Brittany called me the little nanny, and she called her other grandmother the big nanny. Not because she was big, or not because I was small. It was our height. Whenever they went over to their other nannies, they always said, "When are we going to Nanny Susie's? When are we going to Nanny Susie's?" Because I was the play nanny. one time the other nanny and I were looking after them. We were sitting at a table on the patio, and Ashley looks up at me and says, "Nanny Susie, you know, you're my favorite nanny." Well, I kind of felt embarrassed but proud. Couldn't look at the other grandmothers, Nanny, for a little while. But deep down I was smiling. Until the day I die, I will love them forever. Get a little emotional. When I was a child, my greatest joy was going to my grandmother's, who always treated us to a special meal. There was a bakery there in Shubenacadie where she always bought us Mary Ann's. They were coated in coconut and they had a strawberry filling. That's the only time that we had treats. The only time when we were growing up when we had fruit was at Christmas time, when my grandmother always brought us down fruit. My grandmother paid for most things that we had because my father was an alcoholic and spent most of his money on liquor. I consider myself a very strong person. I am a very happy person now. I met another wonderful man that treats me so well. For the first 6 months that we lived together, all went through my mind was, when is this going to change? When are you going to turn nasty? That's all I knew. And he never did. He never did. We've been together now for 23 years, and I don't think we've ever said a cross word to each other. We just love each other, and we treat each other with respect and dignity. I am so happy that I met him so that I could know a normal relationship. Cancer runs really bad in our family. My sister died with brain cancer. My other sister, Claire, had cancer of the breast, cancer of the uterus. She survived both. My mother had cancer of the uterus. She had bowel cancer, but she died of old age. She was 92. I myself have had breast cancer in 2015. I had stage 2 cancer. I was operated on in June. After 6 weeks after I had healed up some, I had to go and have 29 sessions of radiation, which burnt me to a crisp. There was blood showing through my skin and was very, very sore. But I never complained, and I never thought that I was not going to be cured. I was very positive. My doctor said how pleased he was how I had handled it. Cancer is a very scary word when you hear it, but I seemed like I was more concerned over my sisters when they had it more than I was about myself. I just never thought I wasn't going to beat it. That was 3 years ago, and I'm still cancer-free, still going for mammograms. I hadn't had a mammogram in 7 years. My left breast had started paining, so I thought, oh, I better get a mammogram, and I didn't realize that it had been 7 years since I had one until I got the appointment, and they said, why did you wait for 7 years? I said, oh, I just kept putting it off. So I suggest to everybody now to get their mammogram. And a week after I had my mammogram, my doctor called me and told me that I had the cancer and set me up to see a specialist. And I was given the choice to remove my breast or remove the lump. I said, well, I think I'll remove the breast. And the specialist looked kind of funny at me, so I said to her, well, what would you do if it was you? She said, I would just get the lump removed. I said, okay, that's the way we'll go. So they removed 3 lymph nodes, but I was fortunate enough that I didn't get the swollen arm, which a lot of breast cancer people do get. My breast remains tender to this day, but I can handle that. I handle worse things, and as I said before, I'm very strong. I've had to be, so I think I'm kind of proud of myself. I have a couple of regrets. One that I didn't get an education, got married too young, but I don't regret from the results from it. I didn't get to have a teenage life, and my biggest regret is lying to my granddaughter. We had received Bailey from them when they, I think when they moved to England. He was a sweet, sweet dog. We fell in love with him. One morning he crawled into my bedroom, and I thought that something's wrong with him. So he crawled under the bed, because he usually jumped right up on my bed. I got down, looked under the bed, and he was kind of crying. So I got him out from under the bed. He had messed himself and urinated. So I wrapped him in a blanket and took him out onto the patio. First I called my neighbor. I said, "Come over, Bailey's sick." She kept running over. She forgot her glasses. She went back home, got her glasses, and then I called my husband and said, "You got to come home, Bailey's sick." I said, as quick as you can get away. And then I called my daughter. I said, "Should I take him to the vet when Harold gets home?" And she said, "Yeah." Unfortunately, by the time my husband got home, Bailey had passed away. It was just within a half hour. It was so shocking. So when my husband got home, he wrapped them all up in the blanket and took them to the vets to be buried. We were so emotional. And to this day, I miss him so bad. But the lie I told was to my granddaughter. She knew he was sick. Her mother and her stepfather were going away, and Ashley had been sick herself with mono and was run down and not feeling well, so they didn't want her to know. So every time she would message me, I would say, "Oh, he's good. Oh, just waiting for blood work," and hating myself the whole time because I did not want to lie to her. I had to come up for a week to stay with her. They were going away. And I said, if she asked me, I am telling her. So we were sitting at supper one night. Out comes the question, "How's Bailey?" I said, "He died." She said, "You're joking." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm serious. He died." Why did you tell me he was going for blood work and he was doing okay?" I said, "That's because your mother. She made me promise not to tell you, but I said if she asked me, I'm telling her the truth. Because I do not like lying to her. I don't want her to be upset or anything, but she deserves to know the truth." Oh, I dreaded and dreaded that question. And unfortunately, she was mad at me. She cried and was upset and wouldn't talk to me for a while. And then she messaged her mother and gave her old heck. But to this day, I think she understands why we did it. But I still have the regret of lying. My advice for the younger people of today would be to study hard, get a great education, get a great job, respect their job, respect themselves, work as hard as you can, travel when they can, make every moment of their life count because life is sometimes too short. So I think we should all value whatever time we have and do what you love to do. Be smart. Don't drink and drive. Don't do drugs and drive. Don't do drugs, period. And just be happy.